Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of today's podcast. I am super excited for a number of reasons. Number one, it's another interview episode, which I know all of you love so much because of all the wonderful feedback that I've been getting. And number two, when I get to interview a client of mine that obviously is having success with things that I teach, and they're coachable and they apply them, the results end up speaking for themselves. But more so, what I love about what this individual does is I love professionals that seek to provide solutions for people's problems, especially in specific niches. And a lot of you know that, I solved the problem for a lot of people that did not know how to leverage LinkedIn. And the individual that I have for you guys today is solving a lot of problems for healthcare professionals, specifically nurses. And with that being said, and all of that behind us, Teresa Sanderson, welcome to today's episode.
Oh my gosh, Scott, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and just chat with you a little bit about what's been going on in my life and connect also with some of your listeners out there. It's just an awesome opportunity. Great to see you again.
Well, you too. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you on here. And you are an expert in your space. You have over 30 years of experience as a healthcare professional in the nursing industry, but you're also an entrepreneur at heart, and you were always an outside the box thinker when you were inside the box of being a nurse and in healthcare. So before we dive into all the things that you're doing now, why don't you share a little bit of your journey in entrepreneurship, but also in business, but more specifically, what would you say was that catalytic moment for you that set you on this path that you're now currently on?
Well, that's a great question. And I think there were a couple of different times when I had just some major aha moments. And I think one of those was years ago in the early 2000s when I was working for a hospice nursing agency. And hospice is supposed to do so many great things for patients and families, but there are truly some hospice providers out there that are lukewarm in their commitment. And I was working for one like that was just kind of, hey, we do hospice and here's what we provide. It may not be everything, but you're in a small rural area, so this is what you got. And I worked in that arena for a little bit, and I would come home and lament to my husband and say, I just really wish we could be doing more for these patients that we're serving. And Greg would say, of course, he was an independent photographer, and he would say, you just need to start your own. And I said, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what that would look like. I can't even imagine. There's no way I could do that. But anyway, that went on, and I lamented a few more times. He always came back with the same answer. And finally, I decided I just need to dive into it. And we launched our own hospice in March of 2004. On a $6,000 shoestring budget, grew it to $3 million in annual revenue, and served more patients than I ever dreamed. So truly, it was a divine kind of thing. I was heavy in prayer, and during that entire time, but that is really what just kind of blew my mind. And I think I did it then, but then later I developed major depression. And I couldn't work for 3 years. So we ended up selling that hospice, and I was out of the workforce, just in a terrible mess. And once I had recovered, so today I'm kind of a poster child for recovery, but once I had recovered, I found that I really couldn't work in any other environments, be that for the stress or anxiety that it caused, or just after having owned my own business, it's tough to work on a schedule that somebody else sets. I think that was the biggest thing. And so really what I found, though, in the world of entrepreneurship that I'm now in is that I set my own schedule, I do my own thing, and it's actually the best way for me to promote my own self-care and take care of myself so that I never have to experience the depths of depression again. I have found this to be the most life-giving thing. And so that, I believe, has been the biggest catalyst since that recovery from depression, is just taking care of me. And so that I can be here for my family and those people I love.
I think it's important to also note of, being vulnerable, being open, being transparent, but also acknowledging that one is feeling a specific way. And my dad always told me that when one person says something in a way of how they feel, there's
Yeah.
9 others that may be going through the same thing, but they're just afraid to say it. And I think someone like you stepping up to the plate and saying, yeah, I battled depression for a while, and it caused a pivot or a refocus or changing direction, so to speak. There's a lot of people that are listening to this that are like, you know what, I can relate to that. I went through something similar. And that's why whenever I share my story about, filing for personal bankruptcy back in 2016 to allow myself to propel our business and where we are now, there's a lot of people that always reach out and say, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for giving me permission to look into going down that path myself. Now, not to hone in or focus specifically on the depressive side of things, what did you learn most about yourself battling through that depression after, again, when someone hears, I was on a $6,000 shoestring budget, converted that into a $3 million a year revenue business. Like what could Teresa be complaining about? What does she have to be depressed about? So what did you learn about yourself resiliency wise, in battling through and acknowledging the depression to come out better on the other side?
Oh, I love that question. And I think for me, it came down to learning that all of the hurts that I had carried from the time that I was a child. And I don't have a terrible story. There are so many people who experienced physical abuse and heavy emotional abuse. I didn't come from a household like that, but that doesn't mean I didn't have hurts that affected me significantly, right? And so I developed early on, when I was a young girl, I developed what I called my poker face. Never let them see you sweat. And I said that so often in my career as a nurse. I told this story the other day, and it's one of my most profound memories of growing up, was when I had a 4th grade birthday party. And back then, classroom size, teachers would balk at that now, but there were 35, 36 kids in a class in the early 70s. And so you invited everybody. One girl came. This was my 4th grade birthday party. I had one guest. And I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. There was nothing going on in town that would cause anybody not to attend. And in my mind, everybody had just chosen purposefully not to be there. But I didn't cry. I didn't weep about it. And I asked my parents years later, when I'm, seeing the psychiatrist who asks, so tell me about your childhood. I asked my parents, did we ever talk about that? And they said, no, we didn't. You looked like you were doing fine. I had a great poker face. And so I've discovered now that, one of the biggest things I learned is that we have to be able to be vulnerable, and we have to express the things that hurt. And no matter, it really can't matter what someone else thinks of what that was. It's how you experienced it. And that is the true meaning to me, or blessing of communication, is that I can share with you how it was for me. You may not agree with that, but there's no reason you can't hear me, and that is, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Now, in nursing, it's a very selfless profession and industry. The notion of filling everybody else's cup before you even think about filling your own. What inspired you as a 35-year plus professional expert in the nursing industry, working for other people, owning your own business? What inspired you to, I don't want to say stay in nursing? Because, obviously you're doing different things, but, what really inspired you to support other nurses the way that you are now? And again, there's obviously a kink that you were noticing in the profession of nursing, where these people needed to be supported in a more meaningful and deeper way. So what was that I guess that thought, that feeling for you that said, you know what, I don't want to leave the industry and the profession altogether. These people need me, and this is why I'm going to take that next step and support them in a different way?
Yeah. And that's a great question. I think for me, it's that I experienced this phenomenon of nurses eating their young when I was in nursing school. And so before you even get your license, you get hazed. And this has just been accepted as the norm in nursing for decades. We've developed this almost familial dysfunction of, when a veteran nurse hazes a new nurse, the new nurse learns that she's going to haze the next nurse, and so on and so on and so, and it just perpetuates. So for me, having been a nurse more than 30 years, I really long to leave a legacy in nursing that we can change nursing culture. We can improve nursing work environment. We can do this better. And even though I'm on the outside as a nurse entrepreneur, I'm a nurse at heart, and I'm a nursing leader. I spent the bulk of my nursing career in leadership roles. And so even though it's not in the best interest of my mental health for me to be serving at the bedside or working in hospice care or anything like that, I can still serve nurses in a very important and meaningful way through helping impact nursing culture, and which is the ultimate goal now.
Now you have a program that's being created and being put out there, and it's actually called Nurses Feed Their Young. So first, as far as the hazing side, so let's talk about the analogy of Nurses Feed Their Young, and how did that trigger or spark that light within inside of you to say, you know what, that's a great name for a course and a program, and this is how I want to start helping people?
I think it was just one, I was talking with someone about nurses eat their young, and it finally came to me that really the journey, I just think it was a divine download, quite honestly, because it just came to me that what I want to see in nursing is a shift from nurses who eat their young to nurses who realize that we need our young, to finally nurses feed their young. So we have to have this awareness that if we continue to bring nurses into the same lousy culture and same lousy work environment, they're just going to leave, and we will never resolve the nursing shortage. So clearly, no pizza party is going to fix this. No $10 bonus, no double time shift. None of the things that we continue to try are going to work. We have to get to the root of the problem. And I recognize that it's a big, ugly onion to peel. And that's why I'm sure so many people, so many leaders choose to not go there, because how do we fix this? It's quite the conundrum. But if not me, who? And if not now, when? That is really why I'm doing it, because it just needs to be done. And, one person who connects with other people who also care and share the same values can make a difference. We already have global interest, and we're just a few months into this thing. So it's very exciting.
That's amazing. And, obviously the pandemic really shifted a lot of professions, a lot of industries, flipped the script on so many different things. And because of that, it spurred a lot of things, just like what you've created in Nurses Feed Their Young, because you notice that there's a demand and a need, but also there's something there that people need help and assistance with. And obviously the creative that you are allowed you to kind of step into that. Outside of the program that you created, what sort of positive changes are you seeing in the healthcare industry? Because again, people can focus on the negatives all the time, and you obviously see those on the news, but insider information, because obviously you're connected to a lot of those people. What are some of the positive things that you've seen happen or are changing in the coming year or two to the healthcare industry that's going to give a lot of those healthcare professionals a lot of hope that things are going to get better, things are going to improve, and there's going to be more of a supported work-life integration?
I think, first of all, some of the things that I'm seeing is that nurses have the attention of leadership at this point, and that in itself is very exciting. I believe that nurses are being heard now more than ever. I'm not saying that administrators and leaders necessarily know what to do with all of that yet, but they are being heard. And I think the shift in corporate America to values-based leadership, values-based recruitment, all of those things, when we start working from that perspective in the healthcare system, we're going to be able to hire and place the right nurse in the right role, not just any nurse in any role. You know, right now we do what I call hire and hope. Let's just hope it's a great fit. We have all these vacancies, put anybody in there. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work for the long-term satisfaction of the nurse. If we can, and that's what I think is coming, is developing ways to identify the native skill sets of nurses and the best places to allow their gifts and talents to shine. So that to me is very, very awesome to think about for the future.
Now, before we wind down, let's talk a little bit about Nurses Feed Their Young. So why don't you tell the audience and those that are listening that may also have a nursing or healthcare background, talk a little bit about the program and the course, you know, who it serves, how does it serve them, but more importantly, how can people find out more information about it?
Oh, thank you so much. Nurses Feed Their Young, we are really a grassroots type of movement. You can find us on my website, teresasanderson.com. There is a page there for Nurses Feed Their Young, and it describes a program for you. We need 3 levels of helpers in this. So if you are a nurse or nursing leader longing to create a meaningful and positive culture and work environment at your organization, this information is for you. I want you to learn about our Nurses Feed Their Young leadership role, which is an entrepreneurial venture where you can actually become a coach in the Nurses Feed Their Young movement. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, just like Scott said. And so rather than form this into a nonprofit or something like that, I really wanted to create opportunities for nurses who need something different. In 2022 alone, 38% of nurses are expected to leave the bedside. Those nurses will need options on what to do. And I want this to be one of the things that they can do to help us. Now, the next level is just, if you can't see yourself as being a coach, maybe you would just like to be one of our empowered champions who goes through our coaching program to learn emotional intelligence for yourself so that you can show up better in the workplace. You can manage conflict better in the workplace. You can be a role model of what an emotionally intelligent nurse looks like. And the last level, but not at all the least important, is just our, we call them nifty supporters, Nurses Feed Their Young supporters. And these are our butterfly effect people who just share the vision and the mission of Nurses Feed Their Young with anybody they talk to. They might talk to their supervisor, maybe grab a speaking engagement for us or something like that. But we need every nurse who is tired of the status quo, who longs to see changes, every nursing leader who wants to stop the revolving door of turnover on his or her unit. We need every one of them in the Nurses Feed Their Young movement. So I invite you to check it out on my website, teresasanderson.com. There's a link there for you to also join us. Every Thursday, we have an informational session on Zoom for anybody who's interested in learning more about it.
Wonderful. So for all the listeners, obviously, Teresa's website will be in the description and the show notes of this episode. So you're not going to have to travel too far to find out more about her, but also Nurses Feed Their Young. And I invite all those that are in healthcare that are, you know, looking for other ways, not only to create income for themselves outside of maybe leaving the bedside, but if you're staying within the profession, but just want to learn how to better communicate. Emotional intelligence is such a needed thing right now in the workplace. And obviously these are the things that Teresa focuses on. So Teresa, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
Oh, success to me is the opportunity to serve people in ways that I love and enjoy. It allows me to make more friends, connect with more people. And when I'm full and rich in my heart, that is success for me. And the cool thing is when all of those things are happening, the money follows. So it's a great place to be.
I always say to my wife that no matter where we are or what we're doing, there's always money circulating us around us. And it's just a matter of time of when it drops. But also the money shows up when the impact is felt. And I can positively and confidently say that, Teresa, you're doing all that and more for the community that you're serving. And I do invite anyone that is listening to this that really resonated with Teresa and her message to go to teresasanderson.com to find out more about her, but also the amazing programs and opportunities that she has. So, Teresa, thank you again so much for being here today. Grateful for you and all the knowledge that you did share with the audience today.
Thank you again for having me, Scott. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you. And for all those that are listening, as always, wherever you're listening to this to and from, whether it's Spotify, Google Podcast, or iTunes, please leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most about the episode, but more importantly, what you would like to see more of. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.